Dogs jumping up on people can be a huge problem, especially if the dog is big, or the dog is dirty, or the dog is just overexcited. It can ruin clothes and it can cause harm in many ways. A dog that jumps up on people is disrespectful. And when a dog is greeting you by the door by jumping up on you, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing. A dog that jumps up on people is overexcited and it doesn't know what to do with that energy. If you're the dog's owner, the dog sees you as somebody that needs protection. The dog sees you as somebody who can't really handle life on its own. If you come home from work and the dog is jumping up on you, it means the dog is anxious about you. Just like a mother would be if a child ran out by himself and came back and you didn't know where the child was. It would be, the mother would be very, very anxious and run to meet the child and hug him and kiss him. And even though hugging and kissing is an act of love in itself, in the scenario where the child has come back and the mother didn't know where the child was, it's not a good kind of greeting. And it's the same way when a dog meets its owner at the door by jumping on him. And many people do misinterpret this as just love and just happiness, but it's actually a love filled with anxiety, if that makes sense. So in the beginning, when I started my journey with dogs and dog training, my dog, she jumped all the time and she jumped up on people, and I was searching for a way to make her stop. One solution that I came across was some dog trainer told me to just stand still like a tree. So I told my whole family, it was kind of funny, every time she would start to jump on them, to just stand still like a tree, like a statue. And it kind of worked. At the same time, she was like 1 year old Jack Russell Terrier. So if she wanted something, she wanted something. So she would sometimes lose interest and walk away. Other times she would still jump up on them and like start to bark instead. So it wasn't really that effective. Later, when I visited a dog shelter in Barcelona, I realized that dogs, they jump and they're overexcited, and it's the best way to deal with it is to ignore them and to just like use your leg to like make them go down. The best way to deal with the dog jumping up on you, if it's just some random dog and not your own, is to just ignore them, don't look at them, and use your leg to kind of push them back and push them down. Don't use your hands because they could bite you or they will see that as you interacting with them. But by not looking at them and just using your leg to brush them off in a way, that's the most effective way if you use the right energy. And if you are the owner and your dog that you own, that's your dog, is jumping up on you, it means it's a lack of respect and the dog doesn't really see you as the leader. So as mentioned many times on this channel, if you follow me, is leadership, and it's the energy that you approach the dog with. So instead of coming home and interacting with your overexcited dog, most people when they come home from work and they love their dog, and the dog they think are happy to see them, so they jump on them and stuff. They interact with that and they go and they pet the dog and kiss him and hug him and they're excited also. But this will not fix the problem. If you want a dog to stop jumping up on you, you need to ignore them. And it's going to be hard when you come home from work and the dog is jumping up on you. It's going to be hard, especially if you miss your dog, and you want to pet them, you want to give them that love. But hold that affection back for now and give that to the dog when the dog is truly calm and balanced and happy-go-lucky. Because right now your dog is anxious. It doesn't really feel like you can manage alone outside without the dog in the big wide world. So when you come home, the dog is meeting you with anxiety and not necessarily pure happiness and pure joy. So be nonchalant, I think that's the right word, and ignore the dog and just put up a leg, or push them away with your leg and go about your business, take off your coat, your keys, and do things so the dog calms down. Once the dog is calm, absolutely go ahead and greet the dog. But in that excited state, it's best to just let the dog be. This will also help if your dog has a problem being home alone. if it suffers from separation anxiety. This is a way to help the dog to be calm when you're alone, when the dog has to be alone as well. If you want, I can make a whole video about separation anxiety and how to deal with that. But for now, we're focusing on jumping. So if you have a problem with your dog jumping on guests, when guests come, the easiest and best way to deal with that is to simply separate the dog from the guest. Instead of letting the dog greet the guest right away, straight at the door, which could be overwhelming not only for the dog, but for the guests. Put the dog in another room. If you know guests are coming over, separate the dog beforehand and let the dog be separate in another room. Once the dog is calm, you can let the dog out. You don't have to. The dog doesn't need to meet every person that comes into your home. It doesn't need to meet random people. But if you want the dog to meet the person, tell the guest, hey, ignore the dog until I say so. Until I say you can pet it or give some attention. Let the dog out of the room. It will probably go straight over to the guest if it's like a happy-go-lucky dog and wag his tail and be a bit excited, maybe try to jump up on the guests. And that's when the guest can just be nonchalant and ignore the dog. You can tell the dog to go away as well if the guest doesn't really know how to do that. And let the dog settle. Tell the dog to lay in its dog bed, for example, and to stay there. And once the dog is calm and you feel like your dog is a happy-go-lucky dog, for example, and the guest wants to like pet it for a while, if the dog is truly calm and balanced, absolutely go right ahead. But dogs, they don't need to interact with strangers. That goes for both humans and other dogs, because that could just spark anxiety and insecurity in them. It's not necessary. In the wild, a dog pack, they don't go up to random strangers and interact with them. So they stay within the pack. So it's not necessary, but you can if the dog is truly calm and in a good mental state. Sometimes it's interaction enough for the dog to just be in the same room as somebody that the dog doesn't know. So to wrap it all up, if the dog is jumping on you, you need to work on your leadership skills. And when the dog is in the act of jumping, you need to ignore the dog, use your leg to bring the dog down, and wait until the dog is calm before you approach it. When it comes to guests, you don't need to introduce your dog to the guests right away. Let the dog wait until in a balanced state of mind, and then they can interact. So work on your energy, work on your leadership skills, and we will see you in the next video.